We have lots to talk about today in the NHL trade rumor mill. We have lots of teams that we're looking at today, including Vancouver, Carolina, the New York Islanders, the Ottawa Senators, the Boston Bruins, and a few others. Plus, we have a big update on the future of former Canes GM Don Waddell. He's heavily rumored to be heading to a new team and with a new role. Plus, we'll look at last night's Eastern Conference final action between the Rangers and the Panthers. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to cover here today. Let's first get started by recapping the latest in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals are underway. We had Game 2 last night of the Eastern Conference final with the New York Rangers tying the series at 1 apiece after picking up an overtime win and a 2-1 victory over the Florida Panthers. Both goaltenders, Bobrovsky and Shesterkin, were both pretty solid. Barclay Goodrow had the OT winner. The Rangers made some lineup changes, putting Matt Rempe into the lineup. Didn't play a ton, but when he did, I thought he was impactful. He certainly laid a lot of hits and brought a lot of physicality and helped, with some momentum and energy when he was in the on the ice and in the game. So certainly, lots to like about that. Jimmy Vesey for the Rangers did get hurt, so I suspect Rempe will remain in the lineup. I know they're probably going to have some other options to replace him. I know Capo Caco came out of the lineup in the last game. Could he go back? It's difficult to say. So we'll have to wait and see on that front when they start skating tomorrow. We'll get a better idea what their lineups are going to be like. But pretty tight game, I think overall. Both teams are likely happy with the split. Obviously you don't want to get down 2-0. So the Rangers are happy to get it tied up. I think after getting the first one, the Panthers might be a little disappointed they didn't grab both games because they were both right there at their fingertips. So we'll see how this series changes as they shift now to Florida for the next couple of games. Of course, tonight we got Game 2 between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Final. We'll see. There could be some lineup changes coming there. There was optimism. Rupe Hintz might be back in for Dallas, but I know as I'm recording this video, warm-ups were just getting underway, and Hintz was not out there, so not looking like he's going to be in the lineup tonight. And for Edmonton, there is a possibility Adam Henrique plays tonight. Not quite clear exactly the full lineup there, so we'll see what options may or may not happen for Edmonton. But overall, the Oilers trying to go up 2-0. Obviously, the Dallas Stars trying to pull even here before the series shifts to Edmonton for the next 2 games. So should be some great entertaining action tonight. I know the last game was great. We've had lots of overtime lately, so it goes to show you just how close and tightly contested a lot of these games are. Another big piece of news here today, of course, in the last 24 hours or so, we were talking about the departure of former Hurricanes general manager Don Waddell from the Carolina organization, who I believe it was on Friday, had resigned after some speculation come to be on Thursday that his contract was expiring soon and he was believed to be parting ways with the organization. I know listening to Elliotte Friedman talk about it, kind of just summed it up that it's kind of just time for a change, so to speak. Some people have speculated that he's been underpaid for a while and he might have grown frustrated working with Tom Dundon. I don't know. We can't really put anything to confirm that. Either way, Waddell was there for a long time in the organization for like 10 years, 6 years as GM after he took over from Ron Francis. Done a pretty good job. The Carolina Hurricanes have been pretty effective and certainly, a team that's been consistently in the playoffs, consistently, second and third round appearances, haven't been able to get over the hump and, really do damage in the conference final or get to the Stanley Cup, but they've made lots of good strides. They're a good team, and this is going to be a year, though, more than like others in recent years for Carolina, that they undergo significant change. And even though we already kind of knew that, we did not expect there to necessarily be change in the front office. So clearly, they're in good hands with the people they have. Like I said, it's expected at this point. Justin Williams is going to get a bigger role. He'll likely be elevated to AGM. And then, of course, Eric Tulsky is the interim GM, likely becomes the full-time GM down the road. But in the case of Waddell, he was immediately linked to Columbus, and there was some other talk that he might be talking to or expected to talk to either Buffalo or Chicago, potential roles there. But I don't think Buffalo and Chicago is going to play a factor here anymore, because the latest news today indicates that Don Waddell will indeed be heading to join the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, it's not completely 100% clear as of right now exactly what his title is going to be, but is believed to be that he'll be the head of hockey operations. So as much as this is, providing some clarity on Columbus's strategy, it also raises more questions. For example, you've got John Davidson right now, who's the acting GM after letting go of Jarmo Kekalainen in John Davidson's role as president of hockey ops. Well, president of hockey ops is the head of hockey operations if you have one of those in your organization, which they do right now. So for everybody saying that Waddell's expected to be the head of hockey ops makes you wonder what the future holds for JD. Now, John Davidson's rumored to have 1 year left on his contract. So could he step out of the president role into more of a senior advisor role? Could he resign? Could he just retire? We don't really know how this is going to work and what Davidson's role is going to be with the club, or if it's going to change with Don Waddell joining the organization. Obviously, Davidson's playing a big role in helping bring Waddell or whoever else in. So we'll see. Now, it's also not 100% clear if Waddell will be the general manager or if they're going to bring in another person to be the general manager. If Waddell being the head of hockey ops, sometimes that is a GM. Sometimes it's a president. Sometimes you're president and GM. So we don't really know exactly what his title is going to be, but it would not be shocking, and we'll have to wait and see when this is officially announced, if he is more of a president role and they do bring in another person to work with them as a GM. We'll have to wait and see on that front. And the other possibility here too is, maybe Waddell's going to be more of a vice president. I don't know. But at the same time, like I said, everybody's saying he's expected to be the head of hockey ops. So that kind of says that Davidson's role is changing. So we'll have to see. The other big question in Columbus, which has been a question we've known for a while and been waiting for the answer to, and a lot of the answers wasn't going to come until they had some people in place to take over the GM especially, is what's going to happen to head coach Pascal Vincent. He's been kind of hanging on a lurch here, waiting to find out his future. And I guess until he's told otherwise, he's probably planning to return. But I would think that the possibility of a coaching change is extremely likely. I don't think things went well for Vincent at all this year. I know I was happy to hear he got the opportunity originally, because I know he's been a well-respected coach. He's coached through junior. He's got assistant coach experience, and I've heard lots of great things about him. But the way things were handled this past year in Columbus, with a lot of the personnel moves and the handling of young players, I really did not think that things went well, and really questioned a lot of the coaching decisions. Not to say that I'm an expert and know everything better than him. I'm not saying that, but I just think things went weirdly. And I wouldn't be shocked if they opted to go in a different direction, especially with, new people coming in to lead the franchise. So there's still some experienced coaches out there on the market too that never got, into other roles yet. There's still Todd McClellan's still out there. Jay Woodcroft is still out there. Dean Evison is still out there. So lots of good coaches that are been in the mix for some of these other jobs that have come up, but have not secured other employment. So because of the fact that there's some great experienced coaches out there still, and things didn't go well last year, I would be surprised if there wasn't a coaching change. But we will have to wait and get that confirmation later. Now, of course, in the U.S., it's a long weekend, so it's not likely going to be announced on this official news from Columbus probably until Tuesday. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be shocking maybe if they put out a statement or like a social media announcement maybe on the Monday on the holiday and introduce him to the media on Tuesday. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I would think that Tuesday is the most likely day when things are more official, and they may meet the media that day. We don't know. But certainly a few more questions when it comes to JD and the head coach. But it looks like Waddell will be leading the Columbus Blue Jackets Department of Hockey Operations, and I'm sure he's likely going to have to make some additions to that as well. And I'll be curious to see who some of those people that join them might turn out to be. Now, as I mentioned, we got lots to talk about in the trade rumor mill, lots of chatter around a variety of teams. Let's start maybe first with Ottawa. I know lots to talk about, a couple of things there. Bruce Garriock's latest piece for the Ottawa Sun talking about the fact that they plan to be very aggressive in addressing goaltending. They're also obviously trying to get Shane Pinto locked up long term, and there is still some big gaps there, which is a little bit surprising because from everything that we had heard going towards the tail end of the season, obviously Sens management were quite pleased and quite pleasantly surprised how well Pinto played for them, considering he had missed half the season. Comes in, has a really good finish, clearly part of the core, a player they want to keep and sign long term if they can. And here we are once again in a stagnant contract negotiation. Pinto himself even made comments as the season was winding down, saying that he wanted to get the contract together quickly. He does not want to have a summer like last year, where it was already going into training camp and there was still no deal reached. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen again. We're far away from that. But according to Garriock, there's still a wide gap in term and dollars. So it's something they're working on. I have no doubt they're going to get it done. Pinto was not somebody that Ottawa intends to trade, but they do need to come to terms on a contract, and it's going to play a big role in other moves because they need to know where their cap situation is. That's the main and only reason I'm even bringing him up here today. But obviously, they plan to be aggressive, according to Garriock, to address the goaltending. Now, of course, they were one of a bunch of teams, including Calgary, New Jersey, a few others that are obviously looking at goaltending. We know Markstrom is a guy that's in Calgary that might be moving, so it's not like Linus Ullmark out of Boston is going to be the only name in goaltending front that's possibly moving this offseason. We've heard lots about UC Saros too, but Ullmark was a player that the Sens were talking to Boston about at the deadline. They were trying to be aggressive and trying to work out a deal. At this point, we know that Ullmark can block a bunch of teams. We don't even know who's all on that list and what his thoughts are around it. So clearly, we don't even know if he'd go to Ottawa or New Jersey or whoever else. So, that's, I guess, difficult to say. So without knowing that, clearly at this point, Ottawa's a team that, like I said, they're expected to be aggressive in pursuing Linus Ullmark in Boston. Doesn't mean they're going to get a deal done. If they do, I would suspect that Jacob Chychrun is going to have to be a player that's likely involved. We know the Bruins could certainly use a little bit of a remake on their back end, and Chychrun could be a huge part of that in adding to their top four. Obviously, with the fact, especially with Grzelcyk likely not returning to the Bruins, I would think that somebody on the left side would be preferable for them to add. They've got McAvoy and Carlo on the right. You've got Hampus Lindholm on the left. I would think a guy like Chychrun would fit in nicely there on the left as well. So there could be a deal there. But at the same time, neither player has a long-term deal. They're both 1 year left. I would think both teams would be a little resistant to a trade without extensions in place. So, Ottawa's had too many occasions lately with players coming in with 1 year left and not sticking around. So I think they need some security if they're going to make that move. But another team to watch in the Jacob Chychrun sweepstakes, if you will, because a lot of people feel he's more likely than not going to be moved, is Los Angeles. Now, the Kings were heavily involved in negotiations with the Coyotes before Chychrun was eventually traded to the Senators. They were heavily interested in this defenseman. Looking at their depth chart, though, things do look a little different. Not sure exactly what their move would be if they were to make this deal. Obviously, in Ottawa's world, they're looking to use, if they do move Chychrun, they really need a top four right-hand defenseman, or they need a solid starting goaltender coming back, or at the very least a really good top six forward if all else fails. And I don't really know that LA has any of those pieces that they'd be willing to trade. They have those pieces, but I don't think, like, they're all the goaltending, they don't. They're not moving Drew Doughty. He'd be the only right shot defenseman that's under contract that would kind of fit the bill. I mean, to some degree, Jordan Spence does. I don't see them moving youngster Brent Clark. Ottawa, I think, would be all over that. Of course, he's from the Ottawa area, not far from there, so they'd love to get their hands on Brent Clark, I'm sure, but I don't see that being a player that the Kings make available. So, goaltending not really be an option. Right-hand defenseman not being an option. Even looking at the top six forwards, I'm not really sure to the group they have who they'd be willing to move. I mean, I think Ottawa would probably entertain like an Adrian Kempe or Trevor Moore, but again, are those going to be players they want to move? Or, a lot of these players have trade protection. It's going to be complicated to deal with LA, but we do know that it wouldn't be shocking for LA to kind of, reignite the interest in this player. I just think it's going to be tough. I don't see there being a great fit when it comes to the pieces involved. It'd have to be a future-based package. They have lots of picks and prospects that would be intriguing for Ottawa, but Ottawa is looking to get better and improve and win now. So that's not great. They'd have to kind of have another deal lined up for the replacement of him, either the top 4 right D or a top forward that they're targeting goaltender, and then take the package from LA and flip it, or there's a 3-team deal or something to that effect. There'd have to be something like that. Otherwise, Boston does make sense as well. But again, they're rumored to be looking at so many different things. It's going to be challenging, I think, to pull off an Allmark trade if you're Ottawa, and it's hard to say if there is a perfect fit there. Although I do think Chychrun would be great for Boston. But again, like I said, very, very complicated. Now, the New York Islanders are another team that I want to talk about here as well. There is certainly talk from some NHL insiders that Jean-Gabriel Pageau is a name to watch. He's been mentioned in the rumor mill as somebody that the Islanders would like to unload for cap purposes. At this point, between his production and how he's played to his contract, it hasn't exactly been perfect, and with the every team right now needing contracts off the books to create cap space, he's kind of like that guy for them. I mean, we do have some other players in the forward group that are on shorter term, soon to be expiring contracts that you do wonder about the future as well, like Nelson or Palmieri. But knowing Lou and the goals that those guys provide, I'd be a little bit less likely to see one of them move. But Pageau, who would certainly affect the team defensively speaking, and on the PK, I think is more likely. So clearly watch his name out there. With the fact that the Islanders have made a trade with the Blackhawks already to acquire extra picks, wouldn't be a crazy thought to think that maybe a draft pick would be included as a sweetener for a team to take on the Pageau contract. That could be the move that Lou is looking at here. The other possibility as well is that maybe you see in a separate type of move for the Islanders, if they can move Pageau especially, because I'm not sure that he would be perfect for a team like the Winnipeg Jets, but I know there is interest in Nikolai Ehlers. The Islanders are one of probably at least a handful of teams that are rumored to be looking at Ehlers, who is another player that's very much likely to get moved this year. Winnipeg certainly looking to make a few changes, and Ehlers is a guy that I think is due for a change of scenery by the sounds of things, something that he probably would prefer as well. So, for an Islanders team who need more offense and need more speed, he would be a terrific fit. Like I said, they're going to have a challenging time to get him, I think, because there's probably at least a half dozen other teams that have been rumored to already be interested. So with the amount of interest that there is, there's bound to be, bidding wars, so to speak, and, challenging teams to compete with when it comes to what they offer. If the Islanders are going to make an offer for Ehlers, you're probably thinking first round pick and maybe a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom would probably be something that they would be looking at. I know that first round pick, I'd be reluctant to move with if I'm Lou Lamoriello, because they really need to stock the prospect cupboard. But I know that they're still thinking they can win sooner than later. And I knowing what Lou's, the way he's performed and the way he's acted, I don't know for sure that first round pick gets used. I really think they should. So they need the prospect depth, but that's which they don't have right now. But most of these managers are so focused on the now, they don't think 3, 4 years down the road, because they may not even be there. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't be shocked if you saw the Islanders maybe make a move like that. I would not be surprised if Oliver Wahlstrom is moved in some capacity, whether or not it's in a trade like this or something else, to get him a fresh start with a new organization, because he has not really worked out in Long Island. Some of it's injury related, some of it's consistency related. You could probably put a bit of blame on the player and the team, and just an overall general just has not worked for a variety of reasons. I'm not sure there's really one thing that's caused it to not work, but it's been frustrating because he was drafted with a lot of pedigree, a lot of goal scoring skill, and just has not come to fruition on a consistent basis at all. So certainly a fresh start probably would be wise. See if he can find it somewhere else. Another teams to watch, of course, is the Canucks and the Hurricanes. Been lots of talk, especially with Marty Necas being in the World Championships. Since he's joined Chechi, he's been doing really well. Scored some big goals for his country, and kind of got the talk. I see Vancouver Twitter, Canucks Twitter, all over the idea of trading for him, since Elliot Friedman mentioned that the Canucks were a team that were definitely interested in Necas, going back to the conversations they previously had a while back around Elias Pettersson. Of course, we knew before Pettersson was signed long-term that the Canucks were kind of quietly shopping things. Not that they really wanted to do it. They were just, I think, starting to get worried that Pettersson didn't want to stay. The fact that he drug on in negotiations as long as he did. And it's funny because I know he said in his end of season media there that, you know, the season was so because of the contract and just how everything drew out. Like, he could have made that go away, a lot of it, by not dragging things out so long either. Really, like, a lot of that, I think, was his own doing. You know, but those conversations happened, and I think that's the way it kind of ended up getting the deal done. It was rumored that the Canucks kind of went to Pettersson and said, listen, we love you, we want to sign you, we've had these talks, we've offered you, you know, X, Y, Z, but we have to protect ourselves here. If you're not going to sign, we have to know, you know, what we could get for you. And we've had some talks just as a plan B. So, you know, here's what we're thinking. Do you want to get this done and stay? And that's kind of what pushed things along. But Marty Necas was the, you know, not necessarily the only player, because obviously it's going to take more than one player to get, for most teams to get Pettersson out of Vancouver. But he was kind of the building block of the package that they put together, and would have been like the main thing going. So and there's no doubt there's interest in Vancouver, as Friedman has said. I don't know though that's a perfect fit for me. The idea is that you know, obviously they have interest in Necas. There's also been some talk about Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Now, Friedman went on to, originally on a couple of podcast episodes back, talked about potential buyout. Now he's hearing that that's likely not going to happen. I mean, if it was a buyout for Kotkaniemi, it would be a 1/3 buyout. So, you know, obviously it's cheap in a sense. I'd be shocked if they didn't do it, but there's more likelihood that they said either he's going to stay and they believe he can find this game, or they're going to trade him. And there's been some rumblings that the Canucks might be interested in him too. So, you know, could there be a swap of a really good top young player, Marty Necas, along with a struggling young player, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, to the Canucks for a guy like Filip Hronek, who we know the Canucks like? Had a good season as a top right defenseman, but is reportedly looking for $8 million. There's also been some posts apparently by his significant other on her social media saying that they're going to miss it there, and it just made it sound like he wasn't going back, but then again, that could be misinterpreted. I hate to put too much thought into those posts you see from hockey wives and girlfriends type of thing, because it's, you know, you don't know what's going on in their head, what's going on in their lives personally. They could be staying in the same city and moving, like, you just don't know, right? At the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of people that are kind of on the fence about whether Phil Hronek is back with the Canucks or not. And if he is moved in a deal for a guy like Necas, you know, maybe they also include a guy like Mikheyev who struggled. So you get, you know, a good young player for a good young player, and then you also get a struggling contract for a struggling contract. And it's not perfect by any means. I'm not saying both teams would be excited to make that deal, but it could maybe work, or maybe there's some kind of package that could kind of use it as a base to work around. I don't know, just a thought, because we know that there's talk that Mikheyev might be done in Vancouver. There's obviously talk that Hronek may not stay because the fact that he wants too much money, and then all the talk about Necas wanting to get moved, and then, you know, Kotkaniemi. I don't know. It ain't perfect by any means. I mean, the Canucks do have a long history with a lot of European players. Maybe Kotkaniemi would be better served there. I'm not so sure. I really don't know. But I'm not entirely convinced that Marty Necas is perfect for Vancouver either. But, you know, I do understand the interest on their side. He's a great young hockey player. So we'll have to see. I don't know if that's really a great package for the Canucks or not, but at the end of the day, it is something that has been out there on both sides, with just the fact that there's a number of players that on both sides that could be on the move. It's got people talking. It seems to be all the rage on Canucks Twitter right now. I'm not so sure I see a perfect fit, but I wouldn't be shocked if those two teams do pull off some sort of trade, because there is a lot of players that make sense for both sides. But that's all the news and rumors here for today. Let me know your thoughts on everything down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.